Hello dear friends, I welcome everyone presently watching Sotnik-TV. It's Wednesday, April 8th, 2020. You are watching our Wednesday news show. We're streaming live at 8 p.m. sharp in Moscow. I have heard from reliable sources that Vladimir Putin is terrified of the coronavirus. He fears to catch it, so Putin's advisors reported to him and explained what kind of disease it is. He didn't like what he heard and is terrified of any chance of being infected. The theories associated with COVID-19 have aroused new passionate positions among experts. One such expert pharmacologist, and he has an extensive background in that area. He will share with us some of his conclusions regarding this matter. I won't reveal our source's actual name for his safety, but anyone can freely find all the conclusions here from publicly available information sources. Let me clarify once again, he doesn't have any access to any secrets, so he only operates on data obtained from open sources. Since he is a specialist, I find his conclusions interesting and worth being heard by everyone. So let's listen. Here's what I have to say regarding the coronavirus. During one of your shows, you've suggested that the virus isn't of natural origin. Still no interim source that has been found that infected a human being. All those hoping for a vaccine to be invented may recall the 2002-2003 SARS epidemics, or the MERS outbreak in 2012. Have they created a vaccine against these coronaviruses? The answer is no. The virus seems to mutate quite slowly, still it does. That creates an obstacle for vaccine creation. The most interesting question now is our long-term vision. The data obtained from all around the world shows that the long-term prognosis for the overall virus situation is not as bright as once predicted by the World Health Organization. The situation is not as simple as it seems at first glance. Another interesting fact to its possible origin of this virus. When we analyze the data from South Korea, China and Japan, we see that those released from hospitals may remain an infectious source for some time after. They continue to test positive for the coronavirus. Some of them even become reinfected. The latest news reports show that there are cases of reinfection after they have released the patient from the hospital. On April 6th, the following story came from South Korea. They analyzed 51 cases and saw that after testing negative for the coronavirus and being released from hospitals, the patients may test positive after a short time. Besides that, some of them are still suffering from symptoms. So the researchers concluded that the return of a positive result doesn't mean reinfection, but the virus remains dormant inside the body. But it has the potential to reactivate and begin the process again. That is similar to the behavior of the herpes virus. If a person gets infected with this virus, then for a long time it may remain inside a human's ganglion cells, not showing itself anyway. And when the moment comes, some of those infected get sores on their lips, and some may suffer from more serious symptoms. I think they're very similar. The recent data from China isn't very optimistic. An article from April 7th reports those recovered from the coronavirus are either showing no antibodies at all or having extremely low levels in their bodies. So mentioned herd immunity has been thrown out the window. a recovered person with a low number of antibodies or no antibodies at all. This means that the virus has become endemic. This also means that the disease may worsen as time goes on. First, the virus targets the organs such as lungs, kidneys, stomach, brain, and the rest of the organs containing the ACE2 receptor. The virus causes fibrosis of the lungs. Once a person has fallen ill with this disease for the first time, a few nodules may form in people's lungs in a mild form going unnoticed. And once that same person suffers from the same old disease again, within a short period of time, let's say like a month or two, the number of growth within the lungs will continue to multiply. Regarding the theory of the virus possibly originating from Russia and so on, the World Health Organization had a meeting back on February 12, 2018. During this meeting, the head of the organization announced there would be a pandemic, and we all needed to brace ourselves for its arrival. Following that, in March 2018, they put a so-called X disease on the list of the diseases that may cause a potential pandemic. They give more details of that on their website. According to the website, the disease is a natural-born pathogen and is capable of causing a pandemic. Oddly, on March 11, 2020, the aforementioned pathogen was given the now widely known classification name of SARS-CoV-2, which led to the disease being known as COVID-19. Now, regarding the theories of the virus's origin, let me keep from overanalyzing the 2019 Koltsova incident. Yet the story revealed by the Federal TV in November 2019 mentioned the types of symptoms people suffered from in different regions of Russia. They suffer from pneumonia and require pulmonary ventilation. The characteristic of this incident are similar to what we're seeing now. The explosion in Koltsova Center took place in September. But here's another interesting fact. The US Incidence Control Center reported back in August 2019 of a lung disease outbreak among teenagers and adults who vape. They suffered from the same symptoms we see with COVID-19. Those symptoms were high body temperature. Some of them also required lung ventilation. On this graph we can see the date the whole thing began. As you can see, it started in June and lasted until August or September. And that was before the Koltsova incident. So there must be some other reason for something like to have happened even earlier. Considering the Korean research is suggesting reinfection and the story with herpes, I guess the whole thing could have started quite a long time ago. Those talks given by the World Health Organization about the X disease were not empty, but that disease was hibernating for some time, just like herpes does. And now we see it has activated, likely because of different factors. Every country is now trying to provide its own citizens with enough COVID-19 tests. Yet those states experiencing extreme mortality rates might want to think about another mutation of the virus their citizens might carry. There may be a combination of several possible pathogens. Every healthcare institution is now trying to detect COVID-19, and I have not heard about any mass testing for any other infection pathogens. No one is keeping up to date with this information. Just like herpes, COVID-19 turns out to be very severe and may even cause death under certain circumstances. And it may have some type of hidden activation framework. Anyway, there's something unusual about this virus. And it will be interesting to see how the story develops with time. These are only my theories. Yet this theory started earlier than September 2019. You are watching a Wednesday news show on Sotnik-TV. We're streaming live at 8:50 Moscow time. So those were the conclusions reached by this pharmacology expert. The reinfection of those recovered from COVID-19 is still possible. The reason may not have anything to do with cured patients being reinfected, but the virus reactivating itself later inside the body. The tests showed a low or non-existent number of antibodies of those recovered from SARS-CoV-2. That makes him think the disease has been circulating for quite a long time now, and that is likely to remain in your body similar to herpes. There might be some hidden activation framework that impacts the severity of the symptoms. It may be some other ordinary infection or some chemical substance. So my first question, may this be a man-made factor or not? And here comes my second question. We saw other diseases with similar symptoms before this epidemic. One of those was the so-called vaping pneumonia. That was something very unusual, as people have vaped for so many years before this happened suddenly. The US reported 3,000 cases registered at roughly the same time in 2019. They reported almost 100 people dead. The Koltsova incident and pneumonia outbreak in several Russian regions followed that. I wish to find out answers to those questions, as I am still unsure of whether those two previous outbreaks have anything to do with COVID-19. Those are the questions still following the expert conclusions. One of the main conclusions suggests that the pandemic may last longer than we all wish it to. Mankind might also need to get used to living alone with this wonderful virus. That is not something pleasant, but such a scenario is possible. Let me repeat that we state nothing officially, but are rather trying to analyze the data obtained from open sources. We're not a special service or a laboratory. We have no access to any government secrets and are interested in facts, rather than any conspiracies. Please take care of yourself, stay healthy, and be sure to watch Sotnik-TV.